Welcome to this week's edition of Pitstop with me, Jaco from Merwe. I'm joined by Mark Jones and by Charl Bosch. While we edit, please follow the Citizens YouTube channel and please like it if you like the podcast, and you're also welcome to share it. On the menu this week is one of South Africa's favorite body styles, and you guessed right, it's another bakkie, the Isuzu D-Max X-Rider. Obviously, many players in the bakkie segment, many models. Charl, you went on the launch recently. Just explain to us, in a nutshell, where does the X-Rider now fit in?
Well, the X-Rider story, we all know it, but the X-Rider story was it was a sort of a value, they call it a value-enhanced version of the old KB250 that was limited to 700 units. And it sold out so quickly and so rapidly that Isuzu decided to make it a permanent edition within their range. And sales have been going on ever since. So in the past, as I mentioned, it was based on the old KB and later D-Max 2.5, a sort of an entry-level version, aesthetically enhanced version with different colors and trim pieces inside. But what they've tried basically to do now is, I think, go a tiny little bit upmarket. It's no longer a special edition as it was. It's permanent, as I mentioned, but it's now based on the LS version of the D-Max. Now, if you go through the model ranges, you have an unbadged base model, an L, an LS, LSE, and then all the way to the top of the V-Cross. So this reimagined X-Rider, if you can call it that, is sort of a more premium version of the LS with its red inserts and different alloy wheels and black accents all over, and side steps and so on. So more of a premium, if you can call it that, upscale version of a workhorse variant of the
So
D-Max.
obviously a bit flashier.
A little bit, yes. Yeah.
And what about the engine?
So in the past, it was always a 2.5, the old 2.5 D-Tech. And then for a very small amount of time, there was they used the 3-liter four-wheel drive, 4x2 version with the auto gearbox as a X-Rider. But now it's the 1.9, the basic 1.9 that falls below the 3 liters. So it's 110 kilowatts and 350 newton meters of torque. You can have a manual gearbox, a 6-speed manual, but only if you have it. Only if you have the 4x2, the 4x4 you can have only with a 6-speed automatic, which is the option on the 2-wheel drive.
Just before we get to Mark asking where this stacks up against the rivals, just tell us, where would this X-Rider fit in obviously Isuzu being South Africa's third best-selling bakkie, top-selling Toyota Hilux, and second best-selling Ford Ranger? What would the options there be for anyone looking at an X-Rider?
So you
comparatively on the spec sheet.
So you'll probably be looking, besides, I mentioned the Hilux and the Ranger now, but you might probably be looking at something like the Karoo edition of the Mahindra pickup, also an aesthetically enhanced version with stickers and extra paraphernalia. Then you maybe as for the other two, you'll probably be looking at the Toyota Hilux Raider X, which has got a bigger engine and so on, is available only, I will add, with a manual gearbox. You can't have an automatic.
And in the 2.4.
And in the 2.4, which has the same power outputs but a bit more torque, 400 newton meters. Ford, on the other hand, doesn't really have an aesthetically enhanced version of, let's say, of a Ranger XL, for instance. They had it in the past with the XL Sport. But if you're going for that route now, you probably have a look at maybe a standard Ranger XLT, maybe, in that sort of comparison. And with the others, there really isn't anything. There's nothing from Nissan, there's nothing from Mitsubishi, and there's nothing from Volkswagen. So that will probably be those three ones: Scorpio, Mahindra pickup, Karoo, Raider X, and a Ranger XLT.
Mark, is X-Rider giving Toyota and Ford any sleepless nights? Do they have reason to have sleepless nights?
I think the answer is fairly short in that no, it's not. The slightly longer version is that I think it appeals to a very loyal Isuzu type base, and putting some stickers and stuff on and enhancing the value sort of proposal, I think it's a good idea. I'm not convinced you're going to cannibalize or take from other brands in a hurry. Toyota kind of have their guys, Ford have the new guys. So, yeah, it's a good move by Isuzu. I think there'll be a little bump in sales. It's clever that it's the sort of lower end of the market, add some value like Ford did with the XL Sport. I thought that was very clever. Good move, but no, Ranger and Hilux will continue to do what they do best, and that's lead the sales charts.
Do you think the fact that it's only available in the 1.9 might put some people off? I mean, we like driving buckies fast and towing caravans and boats and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I think, as the pricing sort of pitches up and goes beyond 600 grand and 700 grand these days, that's not pocket change anymore. A 300, 400 grand bucky, you would argue, I'll accept a base spec. But now people want exactly that, and they're paying a lot of money for it. So it might hinder them. But I do think the guy that's on a budget that wants to spend, hasn't got the money to spend and is sitting looking at a 1.9, he'll be okay with it. I mean, I've heard from Charl it's not the greatest sort of performing engine around town, but yeah, if that's your budget, that's your Ford Raptor, you know what I mean? It's what you can afford, so it's what you'll buy.
Mm-hmm. Just in the bigger scheme of things, I mean, obviously Toyota Hilux being the best-selling bucky, and with a lot of things that goes with it, obviously loyalty from the customers, reputation for reliability, all of that on the one hand. On the other hand, you've got Ford, which is probably with products like the Raptor, like the Wildtrak X, which is probably a bit more flashy, and especially the new one, a lot more tech on it. Where does Isuzu fit into all of this? Is it a bit of both? Where do you see the Isuzu customers?
Yeah, I like the Isuzu brand. I think it's been proven over and over. It's bulletproof, it's reliable. You seldom hear people whining about failures. So they've got that down. They have that very sort of loyal Toyota feel about them. The Isuzu owners will defend their brand to the end. But where they're really falling down right now is they don't quite have the Toyota thing down, and they really can't match Ranger on tech and spec and flash. Even though they've put a bit of stuff in it, you get into an Isuzu and it does feel, I'm sorry to say it, a bit old school. These analog dials and small screens are old. It's previous gen. Ranger showed full digital instrumentation, massive screens. Love it or hate it, it is what it is. It's next gen Toyota. Hopefully you'll address that. If Isuzu only had that going on, I think they would really appeal to the guys that like reliability, reputation, and tech. But I think they're missing on the tech side. I feel like even if you buy a brand new one, you're driving an old bucky.
Yeah, hopefully one of these days we will get an X-Rider on test. And as always, Mark will take it to Gerotech and we'll see what that 1.9 engine does. Charl's going to tell us that there's some potential there, but purely because it's in Isuzu. And if he's going to be really pleased, it's got to be a manual as well for that week.
It's just a pity that the manual, you can only have it on the 4x2. But I will mention that at the launch, and it was absolutely correct what Mark said, even though we were down at the coast with the garden route, that 1.9 does feel a little bit, it needs at least 10 kilowatts more power. And in its defense, a lot of the cars we drove had less than 1,000 Ks on the clock. Some even, there was one I drove, had 473 Ks on the clock. So the engine was a bit, hadn't loosened up yet. But also that automatic gearbox, the manual will probably feel a bit livelier, but what I will say is I drove the 4x2 and the 4x4, and because of weight, the 4x2 felt a tiny little bit livelier than the 4x4, which you can expect. But Isuzu didn't mention we talked about it a couple of months ago, but the facelift D-Max that has basically the same engine, But that new 2.2, the rumored 2.2, will probably solve this, but Isuzu hasn't confirmed anything yet. But yeah, let's wait and see. But the chances of us getting that manual is probably zero. It'll probably just be all the automatic.
But that was a fantastic set of diplomatic words you used in there. So maybe we should remain on the mailing list for the next invitation.
Yes.
But yeah, as soon as we get that Bucky, we'll put it through its paces and we will compare it to some of the others. That's it from us for this week's Pitstop podcast. Please follow the Citizens YouTube channel. And if you like this, please go and like it and you can also share it. Cheers.